Hey, welcome to my non-objective opinion on peoplesradiounited.com. Today we're going to be talking about internment camps in the United States that are housing children. And I'm here with two guests today, Alex Salazar, who's been here a few times before, and Felipe Hemming, who is a journalist. How are you guys doing today?
Super.
So
Really
yeah,
good, thank you.
Yeah, I think a lot of the people who listen to us know who you are, Alex. So let's start with Felipe. Tell us a little bit about you, what you work on.
Well,
Um,
my name's Felipe Hemming. I am a investigative journalist, and I also have a media outlet, Black Coat Media. I'm a police accountability and government transparency advocate and activist. I'm a retired firefighter paramedic after 25 years. I've been in and around government my entire life. I offer a unique a perspective that may not be available to others because I'm the son of a revolutionary who actually fought and overthrew governments in Central and South America on behest of the United States government, unfortunately, but understand the inner workings of the government. And so I've taken taken that knowledge and skills and ability and applied it in the opposite direction of what the government would like it to be applied towards, and being applied towards educating the masses to what exactly is going on and helping them get involved and helping them do things about it versus just simply sitting on the sidelines reporting it.
cool. Yeah, that's pretty amazing. Some of the work you were telling me about before we went on the show, and some of the stuff you're working on. Alex, can we just go over a brief summary of who you are and what you're doing, activism wise?
Of course, well, I'm happy to say that I work with both of you here, trying to get the word out on everything that's going on. I'm a former police officer. Perhaps I gained notoriety by working in this place known as Rampart, and in the activist circles, especially with police brutality, people kind of just shudder at the name. They think of the movie Training Day, and so now. Today is having awoken up from that time period where I thought that behavior was normal. I'm able to see quite acutely, of course, that even though it might seem to be normal to them to abuse and to hurt people and to do things like that, I myself, having participated in that, I've been able to really wake up and see what's going on with that type of mentality. So I work as a private investigator today. I've developed a specialization in the past 20 years since I left law enforcement with criminal defense, wrongful convictions, and also police brutality, excessive force, and bad shooting. So happy to be on here again with you. And especially with the great Felipe Hemming. I just want to say something about that man right there. He is just total genius. His story is amazing. Waiting for one day for the movie to come out on Felipe's life involving his dad, because it's just so powerful and even in some cases unbelievable. So I hope to hear a little bit about you talk about that, Felipe.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's 2018. We're in the United States of America, and we once again have internment camps. We have mainly Latino immigrant children locked in them. They're being separated from their parents. The Trump administration is blaming the Democrats for it, saying they have no choice, their hands are tied, and all this other bullshit. And this is just straight up fascism, like full on fascism. And people seem to be waiting for it to get worse before they do anything, as always. And you're gonna be going out there to cover some of this and try to get information and work with some people out there. Am I correct, Felipe?
Absolutely. What we know from our past experience with interacting with activists and successful activists is one of the key factors involving this is the need for contacts in journalism and having a strong legal support team to really guide these people in a direction that they remain lawful, because you can't do much activism from inside of a cage. And that's what the government would like to do, is they'd like to make illegal free speech, and they've been successful in some cases in doing that by targeting activists for some of their activities, and that's one of the most important things is empowering these individuals to step up. And that's where we've been very helpful in doing, especially with First Amendment and police accountability activists, is to provide them a backstop through the Hemming firm, who represents Black Coat Media, and with this and understanding of the social the social diagram that's going on now between the alt-right and white supremacists that currently run the administration in conflict with this deep state made up of extremely liberal statists, and they're clashing, and now what we have is an executive branch with a racist running the Department of Justice, who is an admitted racist, who's now adopted the zero tolerance policy to once where they afforded the accused, the undocumented, which understand that coming across the border unlawfully is not a felony, nor is it a misdemeanor. It's not even up to the level of a traffic infraction, if not a parking ticket, and yet they're being treated without the ability to gain bail. Typically, these people would be offered some type of immigration bail and allowed to return on their own recognizance because they're not guilty of any type of violent crime. And understanding that once you cross into the United States, those very same bills of rights and those same things that myself and Mr. Salazar both swore an oath to uphold and defend, we find now that those others that are involved are simply trying to use the Nuremberg defense of almost following orders. Well, those situations, those answers were not valid for those people either. They hung them en masse for their guilt of killing innocents, not just Jews, but Poles, people with mental defects, gypsies, blacks, all sorts of people that were standing against the Nazis. Now we're in a situation now with these white nationalists, if you want to be more accurate, because these aren't just fascists, these are white nationalists. But understand, they also have a bunch of Schindlers running around, a bunch of sympathizers that will simply kowtow to this reality television star and his nonsense, and because they agree with his bigotry, because they grew up with his bigotry, because they believe that they won the birth lottery because the uterus that they were born from happened to be born on this side of this imaginary line versus those other people that are here that they're now putting their children in cages. And what's happening, and I have great faith that there's many people, much like during the Underground Railroad, this country went to war over human rights. And this is one of those things that we're coming to right now, to where there is a large divide. Other people thought this was not, it's not about this. The people got all bent out of shape because that a person of color was on bended knee in a position of solemnness to respect Black Lives Matter and the fact that human beings were being killed by government employees and little or nothing is done about it, but yet he's castigated and loses his job. We're in a very weird situation in this country, much like we were not. I want to go back to the 1860s with the Bill of Nullification by John C. Calhoun. That had to do with states' rights and individual rights. But the way things went about it and the way things went, we now find ourselves in a very close situation to now where the tinfoil hat wearers were concerned about the Walmarts being shut down for them being put in them for FEMA camps, to now persons of color, their children being put in these FEMA camps. The ones that are outraged, such as myself, Mr. Salazar, the United Methodist Church of America. You know that? The United Methodist Church of America. I was up in Claremont this weekend for a water polo tournament, and I'm running down Foothill Boulevard, and I see a bunch of elderly white people holding signs about an immigration clinic. I was like, "What the hell's going on here? Is this a honeypot? Are they luring in persons of color or not? Understand, immigration status is not something limited to just persons south geographically of here. We have people that are undocumented from all over the world. So to think that the undocumented simply applies to just people from Central America and Latin America, it's ignorant. We have plenty of people. The people that are currently being held in these concentration camps, are persons from Latin and Central America, people that have fled governments that this country has put into place, people that have left areas that this country, in our name, have created instability for well over 100 years. For whether it be United Fruit and what happened in Nicaragua with the Sandinistas. Understand that I know this area very, very well. Or what happened in El Salvador with Daniel Ortega, and what happened in Nicaragua with Anastasio Somoza. We can go on and talk about what this country has done in those areas to create economic instability, to create crime, to put right-wing individuals into power, to overrun the church as they tried to do the right thing, but all in the names of fighting communism. But that doesn't work. It doesn't work now. Now we're at this today. So now where we've taken these facilities from being centers of commerce, some would call it centers of slavery, just a different type of slavery, credit slavery, to now we are today where we've taken these people and ripped these children away from their parents. How does anyone just stand idle and do nothing? Well, we're going to do something. We're going to Texas. We're going to go to Texas, and we're going to hit every single one of these facilities. We are aligning ourselves with others. There are all sorts of people, libertarians, Second Amendment activists, First Amendment advocates, all sorts of people, and they're showing up, and they're going to demand that these children be returned to their parents. Place these people in a situation, because you can only imagine the crimes that are being committed against these children in there, whether it be sexual assault, sexual misconduct, this horrible diet that they're obviously feeding them, living conditions that they're not used to, probably giving them inoculations and medications not approved or something they've never been exposed to. So it's not the way we do business, and it's not the way we should do business. These people have committed no crime to be treated this way. Now they have coverage out of South Florida where they've converted what was formerly the Conservation Corps, what is it? Job Corps. They converted the Job Corps buildings down at Homestead Air Force Base into this facility. They now have these upright tents where they have all this stuff going on there. But it's hurricane season. Now they're moving all these kids from the Gulf and Texas to Florida. What are they hoping to achieve there? What are you hoping to achieve sending them down there? I have a very difficult time trying to rationalize it, except to the part about these people being exactly what they are. Bigots and racist, and and that's what that is. I've seen what they've said. I know what they've said, and I see it, and I don't mind people coming out and speaking and saying, "Hey, this is all." It allows me to understand that for all my theory to believe that you were a bigot, it all comes true. I thought you were a piece of crap before. Now I know you are. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
Wow.
The thing is that I believe part of the reason they're moving them around so much is because they already don't have any accountability on these children. No one knows who these kids are, who their parents are, what they're doing, and journalists aren't allowed in. I know until I don't know if they let senators in or not, but senators weren't allowed in, and these children could be abused, they could be killed, they could die. Nobody would know the difference.
Right.
Well, does anyone really care, though, here, you guys? I mean, Trump came straight out and said that we're animals, right?
They're not so innocent, and they're animals, they're not people.
Right. And I just want to echo really quick what Felipe said. I was actually stationed down there in Central America, right there on the border of Nicaragua, Honduras, El Salvador, during that time period of the Central American Wars, where, like as Felipe mentioned, there was all these right-wing, was it the Soldiers of the America or the School of the Americas, trained, heads of state. Who became the dictators or the puppets here for the United States of America, and all these shootings and mass murders that took place with what they call los Escuadrones de la Muerte, the death squads, that helped to create this deranged MS-13, exactly. These deranged kids, and this is one thing I've spoken also with Alex Sanchez. You should have him on your show. He is the director of Homies Unidos, and he himself, an former MS-13 gangbanger, who was targeted himself by the United States government because of him trying to work with the gangs basically try to cover up the wound that U.S. government policy had created to begin with. And so we created these super gangs just by going in there and having their parents and their families just snatched out of their hands. And I was talking to a lady the other day. She saw her 13-year-old brother being taken away and being executed, never being returned to them alive. And so these things are now coming to fruition, and we're stuck with this mentality that these people that we are animals.
Yeah, we have a show every Friday called The People's Weekly, and pretty much every week we're just saying how these people about whatever they're talking about. Now it's this, and the people will say, "Oh, that's not what this country's about. That's not who we are." And every week we say that's exactly what this country's about. It was founded on genocide, built on slavery. It's the most racist fucking place, and it's always been that way. And whether they hide it and it goes a little under, or it's on the surface like it is now, this is what this country's about. And it needs to stop being about that. But this country has never been it's never been great, period. I think a native person said, someone was asked, when was America ever great? And they said 1491. So yeah, I mean, it's this is nothing new. They've done this to people before in this country. We had internment camps for Japanese people. We've had, like I said, slavery. Oh, my dog's having a bad dream.
Well, they had internment camps for Germans and Italians as well. And native and they did that as well. And so one thing, I don't like to dwell in the things I had no control over, such as the history, but we can learn from that history. But we have to agree that the history that you may understand and I understand may be completely different, because I've been exposed to things that you've only read about in books, and I've seen with my own eyes and talked to the very same people that were on the ground when these things happened. So I kind of have a different look about how things operate, and understanding that the reason why what's going to happen if nothing is done is they're gonna find the children in these groups that are the potential next madman, the next Osama bin Laden, that's how these things come about. These people, where do you think the Shatid from the Wahhabis come from? They come from refugee camps. They come from situations to, instead of going to this place that they were sold on being benevolent in the land of opportunity, to now I'm being held as if I am some type of canine at some type of animal shelter, if not worse than at an animal shelter. So I'm not going to even go into what these people have done in the past. I don't tend to even listen or honor what they have to say. They're old dead white guys that really didn't know shit. They believed that the storks brought babies or some other crazy shit. They didn't believe in science. They didn't understand what was going on, but they also didn't believe that all people were born equal. They don't understand that. They've been fighting this concept of this since going back to Socrates, when he taught the slave boy algebra. And that's what people don't get with that. They don't understand that it wasn't about the Socratic method and how he was successful with teaching the slave boy algebra. It was the fact that the slave boy could learn algebra. That's what that was about. That he wasn't equal to them. So that's what they feared. So once you come to understand what the situation is, we can have a conversation about how to solve it. But until then, we start pointing fingers at these old dead white guys. What the fuck is that going to do? Nothing. We can sit here and bitch about what happened in history, but know what that's going to do? Not going to do a fucking thing about it. So what we got to do is get all these different parties that are affected by these fucking white guys and do something about it. Because it's not just that. They got to take away their fucking power. You got to take away their fucking badges. You got to take away their fucking authority, or you don't recognize it. That's what you do. We've come to the point of where recognizing their authority is fucking pointless. They're paid to do a fucking job, but they're not willing to do it. You're not supposed to enforce unjust laws. But these people are fucking cowards.
Well, let me ask you this, because we've said this kind of stuff before on this station. The same thing, it's about what's going on. Oh, no, I mean, we have a lot of shows and different people. But the thing about it is, this is the thing we always come up with is how do we get everyone to do something? How do we get, because until they start snatching up poor white children, no one's going to give a shit, maybe. You know what I mean?
They already do that. They already do that. It's called DCF. See, that's what you don't know.
No,
they already do that.
I know that.
They already do that. They already do that.
But
let's not break down this conversation into skin color and back to the who won the birth lottery. That's silly. I'm not going to, and it's not that. It's the fact the mainstream media isn't willing to cover the whole story.
And that's what I just said. They're not covering the white children. They're not, you know what I mean? They're not until a whole bunch of white children get snatched up in this fashion, snatched away from their parents in a mass scale. It's not going to happen. I know CPS takes kids and sells kids. I know all this stuff. I'm just saying it has to happen on a major scale.
It does. It does. They just don't put them. They just don't put them in these facilities.
So my question was, we as the people, how do we get the people to rise up? Because the people seem scared. The people seem complacent. The people seem
by design.
Apathetic.
It's by design. It's by design. For 13 years of most humans in this country's lives, they're taught to fucking stand up every day and respect a fucking a piece of cloth. They're taught to obey. They're indoctrinated into slavery. You have to overcome their indoctrination. So that's so they in order for this, they have to see the light at the end. Many people, you understand. You're never going to get above 3% of the population willing to understand what's going on. It just doesn't work that way. It's never worked that way. At no point in time has there ever been a revolution at any capacity where you've had the majority of anybody. What we need is an Arab Spring like they had in North Africa, going from Algeria to Egypt. And hey, some people got hurt. Some armored cars got pushed off bridges. But it came down to the judiciary to step into play, and that's what I've been saying all along in Texas. We have situations to where the judges can jump in and say this, but all it takes is people filing the right paper and in front of the right judge, and this whole shit show's over. So all it takes is the lawyers getting into play and getting one of those kids represented, or two of those kids represented, and or someone acting on behalf of those children in absentia, or as John Doe's, or there's all kinds of legal maneuvering that can be done in federal district court to get those kids cut loose. But I don't know if it's happening or not. That's what we're going to Texas to find out. We're going to find out who the players are on the street and see what's going on. Because it's not the people who are in Washington, D.C. on the phone. It's the people that are there in front of the facility that's reporting back to somebody of what's going on. And so if we're going to figure it out and we're going to do something about it, that's what we're going there for.
Yeah, that's great. More people need to go and cover this that aren't with the mainstream. The mainstream is shit. As far as the media is concerned,
they're also indoctrinated as well, and I'm not going to begrudge anybody simply just trying to have a job, And so I've known of mainstream media members that say, well, they're cowards. Yes, they're cowards, but they also have a family to feed. So I kind of have some sympathy on cowards. Not everybody has the spine to stand up and suffer the consequences. I'm not going to begrudge them for that. But you understand, you were taught one thing, that the mainstream media is supposed to be doing all fair and right, but understand they're corporations. They answer to ad rev, just like we were talking about ad rev earlier. They answer to ad revenue. So if you want to know why a newspaper speaks a certain voice, read all the ad rev who goes on there. They determine what's going on. That's who determines what the voice is. That's why independent media, but even it's not independent, they still have ad rev too. But it's those that are willing to go out there and talk about it. They're not looking to collect a check. But there's others that are out there doing it that are getting supported by Patreon, or getting supported by PayPal, or getting supported by others. I have no problem with that. If you want to support our endeavors, hey, I'll say thank you. It's not a big deal.
Yeah,
I'll give you a PayPal address.
Yeah, but
gas costs money.
Yeah, the mainstream totally bows down to their advertisers. But let me ask you guys this. A lot of people are talking. I'm an anarchist, so I'm probably the last person that needs to be answering this. But a lot of people are like, "Oh, the blue wave is coming, and the Democrats will save us all." I think this bullshit. I think there is
no such thing as good government. Let's just get it dead down to it. You're not gonna convince me who's probably more anarchist than the average person, because I will. I'm so much so that I got a medical diagnosis for it. It's called fucking anti-authoritarian disorder. I bow my head to no man, and so That's the reality of that situation. And so, if you're looking for solutions in government, you're already looking the wrong direction. You know, they're not there. There's no such thing as good government. So to say that you're gonna just vote a little harder and get the right crook in office, and they're gonna write the right magic words on paper, dude, they've been trying this shit for over 2,700 years, since Hammurabi's code, an eye for an eye, back in Samaria. That shit ain't worked then, and ain't gonna work now. The fact is, if you want to resolve the ills of society, you remove government from it, because it's an unnecessary thing. Somebody's going to work. Realize this, and this will blow most people's mind, is that you're paying the government to go to work. You're paying the government for your ability to go to work. And as a matter of fact, you pay the government before you get paid. So let that sink in, that you pay for the privilege to go to work. You do. And so so unless you're an entrepreneur, but even then, you're paying for your ability to run your own business. So it is what it is. But we're not going to get involved looking for solutions in government, because they don't exist.
Yeah. And so what's the other alternative then here, Felipe? I mean, to someone that's listening in on us, you kind of had them there a little bit, then you kind of lose me here with that. I mean, shit. I mean, what do we do? Just fucking burn down everything? No,
see, that's what you don't understand. You misunderstand our anarchism. You misunderstand anarchism.
We've gotten this before, Alex.
Explain it to me, please, and explain it to these.
There's a concept, and it's a proven concept. It's called spontaneous order. I recommend reading a book on the topic. If you look in nature, you can have a lion laying with an antelope, and the lion's not eating the antelope. You want to know why? Because the lion's not hungry. That's why he's not eating the antelope. The lion doesn't eat the biggest antelope. He eats the smallest antelope, right? Is it because there's a fucking rule book laying around? No, Alex. It's called spontaneous order. When we don't have others trying to sell you some magical potion about this is the magic answer or this is the magic answer. That's why I don't run around trying to sell anybody my fucking ideas, because I don't, because that's not my position. Either you enjoy what I'm talking about and we can have a conversation. We don't have to agree on everything, but I'm telling you, there's no such thing as good government. Find one. Tell me one fucking thing that a government body does well that I can't find a private entity to do way better, way cheaper, and have some ethics involved in it, and have the ability to fire their fucking ass if they fuck up, or seek redress in the court system without having to go through immunity. I mean, believe me, I've gone through this process. I'm not some 17-year-old kid who just thought anarchy is this great fucking idea. You're misunderstanding this term. Anarchism means no leaders. I answer to no one just like you answer to no one. It really means no slaves. If you really want to break it down, that's really what it means.
No gods, no masters.
No masters. That's what anarchy is. It's not roads. What about the roads? There were private roads before there were public roads. Government doesn't. Just like, for example, I'll teach you. I'll teach you about the word regulate. Now, we can use the 21st century word regulate, and one word thing that means control. But if we go back to the Second Amendment, written in when? In 17 what? A well-regulated militia is necessary to a free state. Do you know what regulated means then? If you open the dictionary for that time period, because understand this, when you understand philosophy and you understand language, that we both must agree to what that word means in order for us to have a conversation. Well, in that time period, regulate means train. A well-trained militia being necessary for a free state. You understand why? A well-trained militia, which is a militia, is just members of the community, me, you, Tim, that find it necessary to defend ourselves against tyrants, those who wish to steal our goods, to keep us traveling freely, for impugning upon our rights such as life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, the right to our property, to right to speak freely, to right to our privacy. Those are what the purpose of a well-regulated militia was, so that when these tyrants showed up, guess what they got? They got a lead sandwich. But hey, understand, I follow the non-aggression principle. I'm not going out of my way to bring violence to anyone, and you know that. But if you come and bring violence to me, that will be the last person you do that to.
Right. Yeah. And we're looking at this climate here right now where there's just so much toxic anger, how it's coming out and how it is. I find myself kind of, feeding on it and what have you, just, hearing those babies' cries and things like that. And people in general, I think, who have been exploited, that have always lived being a marginalized society and looking down upon the dark-skinned Latino, the Mexican, the Indian, and then being treated, as the president mentioned, as animals. And so what I see here happening is something crazy that's lining up, and especially with this Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, who I imagine he's probably going to get a wind of, that the son of Gerald Hemming is here, talking about this subject matter. And I also want to go into a little bit about that here, about your dad here too, my friend. I think people don't know who he is, and it's just amazing here, which kind of debunks everything. And even the president himself, Trump, mentioned, him having some weird thoughts about the assassination of the President Kennedy. And so just for you to kind of shed some light on this hypocrisy here, and if the feds who are listening, want to, check into that, yeah, please do, right? I mean, what do you got to say about this point here now, where we're at the tipping point?
If we're looking for suddenly some sort of hero to magically appear to resolve the now 50 some odd year old 55-year-old or soon to be 55-year-old assassination of a sitting president in public, you're might as well be looking for the Easter Bunny or maybe Santa Claus or somebody out to come up. Understand that man, that was the end of the United States of America. This country changed that day and has never been back. That was the crowning of Lyndon Baines Johnson as the king of the military-industrial complex, and as a result, over 55,000, if not more, Americans died in Vietnam, and other millions of Asians died as a result of Agent Orange, carpet bombing, random bombing, murder, rape, and pillaging like My Lai and such, and then the continued situation that we have going on in Southwest Asia, in Iran, in Iraq, and Afghanistan, to where we are today. Understand that my father was entered in the military in the 1950s, blinded by a sense of national pride and heroism, that he was going to be involved in the overthrow of Fulgencio Batista, the former dictator of Cuba, who was in the mob, and they were stealing Cuban goods for the Cuban natural resources, much like they already do in other parts of the world. But understand that the Cuban people helped the United States become the United States because Cuban women sold their gold so they have ammunition and weapons that they could buy from the French to battle the crown. And a lot of Americans don't know that because they're never taught that. And so my father was down there, and fought. He was not with Fidel or Che, but he was with a gentleman named Camilo Cienfuegos, who was actually the father of the Cuban Revolution. And because it all started with the students, as it always does. Every revolution starts at a college. And if you didn't know that, if you really want to stir shit up, go to your local college. There's always people looking to start a revolution there, and you get them talking, and they go home and talk to their parents, and eventually they get figured out. And so my father, figured out what's going on, and then when Castro came to the United States to try to get some support after he had, took over Cuba, he was not treated with any level of hospitality by Richard Nixon, Vice President, or Eisenhower, who was president at the time. Matter of fact, he treated him like a nobody. Didn't even offer him a glass of water. And understand, in the Latin community, especially the Cuban community, if you bring a guest over to your home, the least you're going to do is offer him a glass of water. And when Castro went to go meet Nikita Khrushchev treated him as if he was his own son, and give him anything under the sun, and sent everything that he could to support Cuba. Why? Because anything that he did was directly blown in the face of the Americans. So it was very personal to these people, and as a result, my father was involved. Figured this guy was a communist, and yet by automatic sense, if you're a communist, fuck, you got to be anti-American. But eventually, my dad did figure shit out, and understood what was going on and figured out what was going on. And when he was with the Central Intelligence and doing stuff in Central and South America, they were understand that the CIA's initial involvement in the drug trade was not for funding. Well, it was simply to find out who the players were to keep the communists from running the drug trade. Because if you provide an insurgent force an opportunity to have a means of supporting their operations, then they'll be fruitful. They won't be looking for money. They'll have money. And that was the nature of it. But once the intelligence operators discovered that, much like they did in Southeast Asia with Air America and the smuggling of heroin from Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam into the United States in the late 60s, early 70s, the first heroin epidemic in this country. Now this is the second heroin epidemic in this country. People got involved. So what was happening with guys like working around my father, they were stealing. They were taking money off the top. They had no more money they knew what to do with. They made a movie recently that Tom Cruise started called Made in America, and it was about Barry Seal. And a lot of that's true. The other guy had so much money, he had so much money he didn't know what to do with it. But I also know this, that there are people that still work with the Department of Homeland Security that worked with my father, that they work with Department of Homeland Security, that were caught smuggling drugs and got caught with an aircraft full of dope. And as a result of a phone call saying, hey, those guys are working with me, they were let go. And why? Because my father was an operator, and that's what they were doing. He wasn't in it for the money aspect. He wouldn't have been involved in any of that shit. He wouldn't have been involved in any type of shit with Oliver North or any of that stuff. I'm telling you, if my father had been what we would consider stealing from the operation, I wouldn't have grown up in Opelika, Florida. My power wouldn't have been getting cut off. I wouldn't have been getting beaten up every day at school or getting in fights every day at school. I wouldn't get beaten up, but getting in fights every day in school. And I wouldn't be getting evicted and all kinds of other shit. And my father, if he had not maintained his cover, he wouldn't have done 8 years in prison for smuggling drugs. Because all he would have to do was say, "Hey, I'm Jerry Hemming. I'm a CIA asset, and that's what it is." Because that's what happened. They went after him in 1977. And that's what that is.
Right now, your dad was also known to have met with Che, though.
He knew Che. He knew Che.
Yeah.
He knew Fidel. He
I
knew
heard
these guys.
I heard your dad's recording.
Oh no, absolutely.
Yeah, I heard the recording of that, and it's just powerful. How he was just literally like this. Oh my gosh, the real James Bond mercenary corps to whatever degree where he somehow linked or implicated to the assassin, known as Oswald. I mean, and the fact that nobody has ever talked about this has been like the shameful thing that with you, and I'm glad we're having this conversation now regarding your father, especially because it just opens up the light on so much madness that has traditionally been going on in the United States. If there's anything that came good out of Trump is that Trump has been the force of opening up all this madness that's going on, that has continued on for the ages. But he's opened up the Pandora's box at this point, right?
Right. Well, he is. He's actually, by doing this, all he is doing, he doesn't even realize it, is he's allowing old wounds to become reopened. And as a result, the people are going to have questions, and they're going to want answers. And I'm okay with that. I don't mind the truth. The truth is powerful medicine.
Right, and then we look at Jeff Sessions here, going back to him, named after the president of the Confederacy, Jefferson Davis, and also the name of Beauregard, a general of the Confederacy, also having hailed from Selma, Alabama, where, that's the birthplace of racism. And when you look at this man's face, and then him quoting scripture without thinking, a couple phrases down, it says, love thy neighbor, love the person, love the stranger. I mean, these hypocrites, these people who dare call themselves Christians, I mean, it's just nuts. It's crazy that this has become a very much a religious thing that can become, I think, very polarizing as these people start thinking, oh yeah, the end's coming and Jesus is coming, and that in the end the bad would be here and this and that. No, they're the evil fucking ones, that stand on their holy high horse attacking people instead of loving people, loving the sick, and trying to understand these people instead of looking them as expendables. I mean, what I know now is it can become any one of us, any one of us, the human race. It doesn't matter where you're born, or as you mentioned, the birthright lottery ticket. We're all human beings, knowing that we could have been born to some pygmy population in South Africa or something, or in the Amazons, or it doesn't matter where. We're just blessed to be in this life, but we have allowed this mentality of thinking, well, I was born to a white person, so I am better than you. I'm this special color here, and so everything else is subordinate. You're inferior. You're ugly. I mean, that's what it's come down to here. Is just this crazy, but yet simple way of thinking. That has just existed for the ages. I mean, really, when we try to go to court, like what you were talking about, I mean, we got to go through all this government, as you mentioned. I mean, it's worthless knowing that, we have the truth right in front of us. And instead of just dealing with it, we play all these little games, and I don't know. I don't see this turning out for good. I've always said that a revolution is coming. I was in the Los Angeles riots. I was also in the riots over at Ferguson and Baltimore. Those latter two times as an activist, going there, not as an investigator. And it's scary because the people are on edge. They're angry. They don't care anymore. Some of them, they're even becoming extremist-minded. We might say that the cops that are listening, they say, yeah, we got a bunch of extremists here listening and talking about this subject matter, right? I mean, but yeah, that's what's happening here. They're going to create people like Christopher Dorners that are going to go off and start doing shit, and someone's going to start shooting at one of these government installations that you show up at, and the next thing you know, it's going to be a full-blown melee, as you know. So, I mean, what are the plans? What contingencies? What can you tell the police that's listening in right now, the feds, Jefferson, Sessions? What would you say to him?
Oh, to Jeff? Leave.
Jeff, yeah.
Jeff, you claim to be an honorable person, and you claim to be a man of God. Do the world a favor, and expire. That'd be a nice thing for you to do. I hate it for your kids because they may miss you, but you're not anything that you say to be. You're an evil little devil troll. You're a demon. Anybody who wants to follow them, then I don't listen. I am not. My point of view on these people. There are no good ones if they're not throwing the bad ones in jail, and so they have a choice. Like I was talking to an investigator up in Springfield after a journalist was arrested up there, and he asked, "What do I have anything that I'd like for him to do?" I said, "Yeah, quit your job." What? Yeah, quit your job. Well, I like my job. Well, it's kind of a useless job because why? Because you guys don't really do anything. Well, what do you mean? You respond after crime has happened. So, like when seconds count, cops are only minutes away. You police for profit. You don't enforce. You arrest people for victimless crimes, and really you are a tool of the state. And and if you had any character, you'd quit your job, but you don't. And so, that's the best thing you could do is find a new line of work. Because we're getting to a point now that most people aren't applying for those jobs anymore. Nobody wants to be a cop. If you notice, they're recruiting all the time. The Sheriff's Department of Los Angeles County is thousands of deputies down. Thousands. They have mandatory overtime now. Why? People aren't applying for the job. People smoke cannabis. people don't want to give up their freedoms to go take away other people's freedoms. And so what I know is going on, courtesy of the interwebs, blame it on YouTube, blame it on Facebook, but people are getting exposed to information they've never heard of or seen of before. Hell, I even given a shout out to Alex Jones, though he's a bullshit artist, is that he at least causes people to question what they're told. And so I'll never begrudge anybody who is at least partly at least partly stepping up to it.
No,
but
I gotta disagree with that one. He's got a group of fucking wackadoos.
No, I understand. No, I understand. I'm not giving him any credence. I'm saying at least he's bringing people. Yeah, absolutely. He's a piece of shit. I don't care, but at least he's getting people to question the sources, to question the narrative. They're not saying they may suck it down hook, line, and sinker, but at least they're not buying the government mentality for the most part. There are others that do, but I just have faith in others, man.
Yeah, that is very
Alex,
interesting point there. Go ahead.
I was gonna say back real quick back to the Jeff Beauregard sessions. You have to realize who you're dealing with. He said out of his own mouth he was cool with the KKK until he found out they smoked marijuana. So that's where he drew the line.
Right.
The lynchings, the racism, all the horrid shit, the cross-burning, that didn't bother him. Just the smoking weed, which if you go back historically, I think we talked about it before, is based on racism because it was Latino field workers and black jazz musicians they stereotyped as being marijuana smokers back then, and it wasn't for white people. And he's still living in them old days. So,
right.
Fuck Jeff Sessions. He's cool with locking these kids up. He's cool with all this shit. He's a racist. He's always been a racist. They didn't want to confirm him because he was a racist. But the Democrats and Republicans made sure he got in.
So we know that he's a racist. We allowed him to get in. I mean, this is a problem. Do you hear this, Jeff Sessions? I don't know. What can he atone? I mean, obviously this mentality is here. You're going to have somebody lose it eventually. Some rogue Secret Service agent or FBI or somebody that's going to say, you know what, we got to save the presidency. We got to save America. Something's going to happen, and it's going to get ugly. You can almost feel it. I can, at least, because of the anger that's emanating and just the treatment of these children. I think it even goes to, these really hard-boiled, conservatives. At least some of them, I think, they're like, no, man, this is too much now at this point. I mean, is there any possibility or hope for that kind of thinking from the white man? Tim, Felipe, what do you guys think?
Oh, I do, absolutely, because I absolutely do. It's just those were all old white ladies that were out there with the holding the immigration clinic. It was white people who helped with abolition.
Right.
There were millions of white people who died in the Civil War. So so I understand that, and these are also and understand that government oppression is not. It's colorblind. There is such thing as white privilege, but when it comes down to it, we all, regardless of skin color, we all suffer under the boot of government. And now that suffering may be different for one than the other, but dog shit's dog shit. No one's saying, "Ooh, this dog shit tastes good." Oh, this dog shit tastes better. It's all dog shit. So oppression's oppression. No one's going to say, "Oh, you got worse cancer than I do." Well, you got fucking cancer. See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, you have to realize there's probably 40, 50 million white people and maybe 10, 20 million other people that aren't white to fully support this whole thing. Because even if they're Latino, they think they're better than the illegal aliens, quote unquote, as they call them. And the white people, they look at like they're losing their white America.
I know what I can't say that. I can't say that because
I have these people attack me all the time. They're white supremacists and their followers.
And I get attacked just the same, brother. And I'm the same color they are. And I understand. I hear what you're saying, but I'm not going to discount a group of people's potential to help change this. I'm not going to create this barrier because of the birth lottery. We sound just as bad as the biggest if we just say, hey, you don't have it bad as this person. I'm not discounting. I'm not gaslighting anybody. I'm simply saying if you want to focus on history, go to a history class.
Well,
I'm talking about what the fuck we're going to do.
If you listen, I said about 50 million. We have 325 million people here. Even the white people mixed with the minority fascists are way outnumbered by the good people, white and other. But I'm saying you have this core group that's willing to go along and they support this and they vote for this stuff, and they're all gung ho on this, and they're proud white supremacists. Like I said, they're the ones who listen to these shows and attack us nonstop. They're the ones on our YouTube leaving the comments. They're the ones when I'm at protests trying to attack us and shit. They're fucking.
I understand. Oh yeah, they're animals. They're absolutely animals. They're simple. They're simple-minded fools. They're simple-minded fools. And that, if they want to focus on stupid shit, that's what they want to focus on. But you're not going to knock out bigotry and racism by focusing on it. You knock out bigotry and racism by letting them know they don't even fucking matter. Their opinion doesn't matter. Their voice doesn't matter. You discount them. They don't. You exile them. If they want to go do their stupid shit and their stupid shit comes affecting you over here, then do something about it. But if their stupid shit's not affecting my shit, then they can go do their shit. All right, they can do their shit. Because that's really the concept of anarchism. If you don't want to fucking like somebody, then that's on you. Right? If they don't want to like somebody because of the birth lottery, that's on them.
Well,
I'm not even going to fucking try to change their mind about that because they're already set in their ways. That's something they can do on their own. That's not my mission here in life. My mission here is not to change your opinion about others. My mission is if you don't fucking like them, let's do something else, because your opinion about them is how is that going to affect these people and these kids in this cage? Nothing. It's not going to have any aspect of it. So I'm not even going to entertain that bullshit because it's pointless. It's all bullshit, because if you really know the situation, there's very few people of any purity anyway. It's all bullshit. Go get your 23andMe or whatever the fuck you want to do, and then come back and talk to me about how one person is and if you understand Pangea and you understand the 6 different genetic code patterns that exist on this planet, that everyone exists from the same place. So are we going to fucking do that stupid tribal bullshit again? Because I ain't got no time for it, dude. I'm not going to.
That's what they go with, and just so you know, I mean, it does have an effect on the community. Like Claremont, where you're talking about, in Riverside out there, we used to go out there and fight these people literally in Home Depot parking lots because they try to assault immigrant workers trying to get work over there. Right. We've had they've murdered one of my good friends because he moved into their block and had the audacity to be black living in their neighborhood. I mean, there's real consequences for this small group of people. They're very violent, they're very vocal, and it just seems to me that the current government, that's their main base. And that just seems like dangerous to me right now. That's all I'm saying. It just seems very dangerous that you have these people that are willing to go along with anything that's so oppressive, so harmful. So, I mean,
they're hateful fucks. I mean, that's why I don't have time for them. I'm not looking to even change them. These people have made up their mind. They're Nazis as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, they are Nazis. Yep. They argue that term. If you look through my comments, I'm on Twitter. I know you guys do the Facebook thing.
I'm on Twitter as well.
Oh, are you? Oh, okay, cool. We should hook up. But yeah, if you look at my comments, it's like I'll say you're a Nazi. No, I'm not. You're a white supremacist. Yeah, but I'm not a Nazi. They distinguish a difference. It's really crazy. They're nuts. But yeah, back to this whole thing. This is something I always ask every guest at the end of every show, or sometime during every show toward the end. And that's like the people listening. Hopefully, we have a lot of activists and people that are willing to put in the work. That's our goal, to have that kind of an audience. What can they be doing? What can the people listening to this show, or the people that will hear this show after the fact, what can they do to make a difference in this, to help with this situation, to try to end this?
Engage in a conversation at least once a day with a complete and absolute stranger, and bring up this conversation and ask them, how do you feel about your government locking kids in cages? Because far too long discussions of politics and religion were taboo. I don't care about discussing religion. That's something between you and your God and anybody else you want to discuss about that. But when it comes to politics, you are forced to pay for the system we currently have. You have a voice. I want to hear what you have to say. Your politician doesn't care. These oligarchs don't care. This is an oligarchy. This isn't a democracy. It is not a representative democracy. It's not a republic. It is an oligarchy. Princeton University study released 3 years ago confirms that only people they care about are people that pay their bills. And if you ain't paying their bills, they got nothing to do with
it. What if you're on a payment plan and you're trying to catch up?
I'll tell you.
Sorry, I'm just being stupid. But yeah, I guess that's what we hear a lot from different organizations and groups and issues is talk about it, spread the word, amplify the issue, make sure people know, because even like this, a lot of people don't know still, and it amazes me because it's everywhere. Even mainstream news has covered this, but a lot of people still don't seem to know anything about it, and it just shows. And a lot of these people are people voting too, which is insane. It shows that we have a lot of low information or no information people voting.
Well, I think what we have here is our literacy rate has gone so low, and that's what it is. People don't read, and reading and philosophy hurts their brain, and as a result, we have what we have. So that's why I have a live stream on usually 5 nights a week from 7 to 9 on Black Coat Media. I also have a YouTube channel called Felipe Hemming. That's FelipeHemming. And then we also have, Black Coat Media also has a contact number, and that's 888-571-5535. Also, that's the same number when you call the Hemming firm. Imagine that. But we're here to help. And if you have a police brutality case, or you have a situation where you want to get involved and need help or need empowerment, we got your back. If you listen to this show and you happen to be someplace else and you're looking for activists or advocates or individuals to hook up with and to interact with, hit us up. But from 7 to 9, I have a live stream where we cover the news of the day, police accountability and brutality of the day, and the actions of activists and journalists out in the street. And we'll be on the road starting tomorrow afternoon. We're heading down to Texas. We'll be down there for 5 days. And during that period of time, we're going to be seeing what's going on in Texas. We're taking the California Republic to the Texas Republic, and we're going to get some shit straightened out. We're going to this town called Leon Valley, Texas, in the Bexar County. That's spelled B-E-X-A-R, Bexar County, Texas. And we're going to go there and straighten out some stuff there as well. But that's what we're into. We're not sitting around talking about doing something. We're actually going out and doing something. And it's not measured. You can do something from sitting down. So if you're unable to get out and all you have is access to the internet, email, telephone, develop communities, make videos, find content, share content, be a voice, Twitter, Facebook, social media. Social media is an amazing thing. So that's what it boils down to.
Yeah, definitely. What was your Twitter again?
Felipe Hemming. Really simple. Not hard to find.
Oh. Okay. Sorry, I didn't think you said it. I was waiting for it and it never popped up.
Oh, that's a Felipe. I'm Felipe Hemming 24 hours a day. I don't All right.
So yeah, I guess we're hitting the hour mark, and we were gonna do the hour show because this was kind of last minute, and we all I think a couple of us have stuff to do. I know I have to get to work.
All right, no problem.
Anything else anyone wants to say that we might have missed or not gone over that needs to be said, or any last thoughts?
I'm just thankful that we gave Felipe here a moment. Thank you, Tim, for facilitating this beautiful environment as always, and really for the people that are listening, and especially for law enforcement, whoever might be on the line. We're not trying to hurt you guys, okay? What we're trying to do is wake you guys up, that you'll see how this system just isn't working. It's not helpful for you, and it's definitely not helpful for the people, okay? We are all, if we really want to believe, created equal, And so, yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm listening. I'm just acknowledging you.
Yeah, no, and so I mean, I'm that's my whole thing here. That my takeaway is trying to create that utopian world where we're all the same. And I mean, I thank you again, Felipe, for going down there. You and your wife, Krista, and whoever can helps offer them some support down there. Please, get in contact with him because he is the man. He is the leader to do this, and most of all, the system inside and out, just as the system knows you too, my friend.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Yeah, and if you find yourself in need, give us a call. 888-571-5535. I'll be glad to help you.
Yeah, I know
All
Texas is
right.
a big ass state, but if anyone can get down to where you're going to be to help you guys out, I'd encourage them to do so if they're in the general area, or even if they can, make the trip. Um, and yeah, thank you guys. Thank you, Felipe and Alex, for coming on the show. It was really awesome and informative. I learned a lot, as I usually do on these shows, talking to people. So I really
Yeah.
appreciate it. Um,
Yeah, it's definitely a mind blower. Thank you, Felipe. I told you he would not miss with this here because I mean, just his stories it's just so amazing.
yeah, hopefully, maybe you can come back at least for a short update or something on what happened when you guys went out there. And
Oh,
if not,
absolutely.
yeah, and if not, just follow Felipe and all the stuff, all the different links he shouted out earlier. I'll put them in the description of this video when it comes up on the archive and on YouTube, so everyone will be able to find you easy when they watch it.
Okay, awesome.
Cool. Thanks, you
Oh,
guys, and thanks to anyone listening. We'll see you guys next time.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.